Hello, third grade parents. This is a video your Toucan teachers are putting together for you in order to give you some information about something brand new to your child this year in third grade called the Florida Standards Assessment, or FSA. I'm sure that you've heard about it before, and so I'm going to give you some additional information that you may have some questions about. First of all, what is the FSA? FSA stands for Florida Standards Assessment, and basically it's an assessment given to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students in elementary to determine whether or not they have mastered the skills that they needed to in those specific grade levels. Middle school and high school students take it as well, but for now let's just focus on what 3rd grade students have to do, which is the ELA and math portions of the FSA. 3rd grade students will have to take 2 days or 2 sessions for each ELA and for math. Each test session is 80 minutes long, in which the students will have a short stretch break at the halfway point. We will be preparing the students to build up their test stamina between now and the dates that we take the FSA so that they are fully prepared. And in the past, portions of the FSA have been taken on the computer. However, they are all being taken paper pencil this year. The FSA testing window is a very long one. It actually begins on April 1st and goes all the way until the end of May, on May 29th. 3rd grade takes the English language arts or reading portion of it at the very beginning of that window on Wednesday, April 3rd and Thursday, April 4th. Then we have a little bit more time for math. That's not given until the beginning of May, Monday, May 6th and Tuesday, May 7th. When we give those tests, they do begin each morning by about 9 o'clock. So we ask to make sure students are on time those days so that we can get settled down and ready for testing. If a student is absent for a testing session, they will take that session first, whatever day they return to school. For example, if your child happens to be absent on Wednesday, April 3rd and misses the first reading session, then when they return Thursday, April 4th, they actually will take the first session, not the second session, because the sessions have to be taken in the correct order. So now let's talk about how the FSA is scored. It's actually scored based on 5 different levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. They are also given scale scores, which is a 3-digit number, and scale scores then correspond to the different levels. So basically, levels 4 and 5 tell us that students are above and beyond. They have met the standards, they've exceeded the standards, and they've done a great job. A level 3 tells us that students did meet grade level expectations. A level 2 tells us that students still have some things that they need to work on. So if a student scores a level 2, they get put on what's called a progress monitoring plan, or PMP. You may have heard of those before, and all these do is they indicate that the student is still working on meeting the standards and does need to receive some additional academic support. A level 1 indicates that a student really struggled applying the standards that they taught during the school year, and they are recommended for retention in 3rd grade. So if a student scores a level 1, now what happens? Well, there's a couple different things. First, the student gets put on a progress monitoring plan. That would just indicate that they have not met grade level standards. They need to continue receiving some academic support. They also may be promoted to 4th grade through the completion of a good cause portfolio. I'll talk a little bit more about this on another slide. The student also would get invited to attend extended school year or summer school over the summer, and then they'd have the ability to take the SAT 10, and if they score in a certain percentile on that, then they would be promoted to 4th grade. So now let's talk a little bit about a good cause portfolio. It's a comprehensive portfolio that is put together by your child's teacher, and it's made up of a variety of reading passages with accompanying questions that address different third grade reading comprehension standards. The students would read one passage and then answer the questions that go along with it, and teachers will collect the data from the different passages and questions and comprise that data into a spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet is used to track which standards the student has mastered. So for example, one passage may have 10 questions, and 3 of those questions might address one standard, 2 may address another standard. And so what the teachers do is they go through and they track which questions were answered correctly and which standards match those questions to track which standards the students are mastering. So usually we start the Good Cause portfolio here pretty soon, and we will do a handful of reading passages and questions, and then we'll reflect on how those eligible students are doing on their Good Cause portfolio. Then what we do is we kind of put a pause on it until the end of the year when we get our FSA results back. If students score a level 1 at that point, they would continue their Good Cause portfolio during extended school year over the summer. We are not able to do all of the passages, which there are about 15 of them. We are not able to do all of them before the end of the school year because students can only take them one time. So we try to space them out. So we do part of them between now and spring break, and then save the rest of them for ESY. So speaking of ESY, it is a 6-week program offered by Pasco County Schools, and students who score level 1 are invited to go to ESY, and at this time they will receive instruction from a teacher on the third grade standards for that 6 weeks, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, in the 6th week actually, they are able to take the SAT 10 to determine if they have mastered third grade standards at that time. If they receive a certain percentile score, then they would be eligible for promotion to 4th grade. So I know the big question that parents always have is, well, when do we get the results? It usually takes quite a while for the state to score our FSA reading test. 3rd grade does take their test at the very beginning of the testing window. Therefore, our reading results come back before most of the other scores come back in. Since 3rd grade is a high stakes year, our scores usually come back before the end of the school year. It's usually pretty close to the very end of the year. So don't hold your breath, but as soon as we receive scores, then that information is conveyed to parents. Typically what happens is if students score a level 1, as soon as the results come in, then administration will let those parents know. As far as everyone else goes, those scores usually get mailed home over the summer. Once the math scores also come in, there would be something mailed to the home giving you the child's scale score along with their level that they scored. So now, what can you do to help prepare your child? So basically, we have been preparing our kids since the very beginning of the school year, talking about different question types, how to answer, test-taking strategies, teaching the different standards, the different reading tests that we have created. Also have prepared the students for taking the FSA. So don't worry that your child is not prepared. We have been preparing them for quite some time. With that said, there will be a lot of chances for them to continue to learn and practice applying the different standards that we've taught. And there will be lots of resources that you can also use at home. So there is a folder, a module on My Learning that is comprised all of FSA practice. This will be published very soon, sometime in February, so that your child can start practicing. The practice is all optional. However, we definitely strongly encourage students to get on there and get some of the practices completed. There are lots of reading passages which have questions that go with them. There's a little bit of proofreading practice, and there's also math practice on there. And once these open in February, we will leave them open through FSA testing so that students can go on there anytime they'd like. As we get closer to FSA testing, we will also use lots of practice materials in class to ensure that students are prepared. These materials will then be sent home, so please, please, please feel free to go over them, talk about them, discuss them. The more that your child looks at them, talks about them, different question types, making sure they're underlining their text evidence, different test-taking skills, the better off they're going to be once they sit down to apply all those skills independently. There is an FSA website in which you can log on to anytime you'd like. We do have an information sheet that kind of guides you through everything, but basically if you go onto that website, fsaassessments.org, there are some training tests, so you would click on students and parents and then training tests, and you just log in as a guest and you'll see where you can do that, and then you can click on the grade level and then either do math or reading practice. Again, there will be some more information on how to log in, but it's pretty self-explanatory if you want to go ahead and get on there ahead of time.